I want to show you something that almost cost a friend of mine $35,000 in confused thinking before she'd even read the actual numbers. Her name's Maya. A recruiter offered her a senior role in Columbus, Ohio. Base salary, $105,000. She's making $140,000 right now in Sacramento. On paper, that's a $35,000 pay cut, and she had her thumb over send on a flat no. Here's what stopped her, and what should stop you too, anytime you compare two salaries like that. A number from a podcast kept surfacing in her head, that the rich number in America is $520,000 a year. She's nowhere near that in Sacramento. She'd be even further from it in Columbus. So why did turning down that offer still feel wrong? That's what we're untangling today. Not what some podcast guru says the rich number is. The actual, verified numbers from the IRS, the Census Bureau, and the largest wealth surveys in the country. And by the end, you'll see exactly what Maya almost missed and exactly how to run this math yourself before a number on a screen makes a decision for you. Here's the trap she almost fell into, and it's the same one almost everyone falls into. There are three completely different ways to define rich in America, and almost nobody separates them. The first is perception, what people believe is rich. Pure survey data, people telling pollsters what salary sounds wealthy. The second is statistical, what actually puts you in the top 1% of earners based on real IRS tax returns. And the third is the only one that should actually decide a question like Maya's. What it costs to live comfortably after taxes, housing, food, and everything else in the specific place you live. This is the math nobody wants to do because it's the least flattering of the three. It's also the only one that actually matters for a decision like hers. These three numbers should track together. They don't. And that gap is exactly what almost made Maya send the wrong answer. Let's deal with the number stuck in her head first, because it was poisoning the comparison before she'd even started. Every year, Bankrate surveys thousands of Americans and asks, how much would you need to earn to feel rich? In 2024, the answer was $520,000, up from $483,000 the year before. Gen Z said $461,000, Millennials $480,000. Gen X, $574,000. Boomers, $556,000. Now, here's the number that actually mattered for Maya's decision. The real national median household income, what a typical American family earns, is $83,730. That's the Census Bureau's current figure. So the average American believes they need over 6 times the median just to feel rich. Maya's current $140,000 isn't close to that $520,000 number. It's also nearly double the median. Both things are true. Neither one tells you anything about Columbus. That $520,000 figure was never built to answer her question. It's an emotional ceiling, not a cost of living floor, and it was about to make her undervalue a real offer.
So let's set it aside and check the second number, the one that explains why where matters as much as how much. According to Smart Asset's most recent IRS analysis, the national income floor to join the top 1% is $731,492, but the map fractures hard depending on the state. Connecticut sits at the very top. In the most recent Smart Asset data, it's the only state where the threshold crosses 7 figures, $1,056,996, just for the top 1%. West Virginia's threshold is $416,310, less than half. You could be a top 1%er in West Virginia and not crack the top 10% in Connecticut. Ohio's threshold sits much closer to West Virginia's end of the scale than Connecticut's.
But that's not where Maya's decision actually lived. She wasn't chasing the top 1% in either state. She needed the third number. The one about whether 105 in Columbus actually buys more, less, or the same life as 140 in Sacramento. This is the spreadsheet Maya hadn't opened yet, the one that would have saved her from hitting send. Smart Asset used the MIT Living Wage Calculator and a standard 50-30-20 budget. 50% needs, 30% wants, 20% savings, to calculate what a single adult needs in every state to live comfortably. Not richly, comfortably. California's number for a single adult? $119,475. Maya's current 140 in Sacramento sits about 20,000 above that line. Comfortable, with room.
Ohio's exact figure from that same data set, $84,780 for a single adult to live comfortably. Maya's offer of $105 in Columbus would put her over $20,000 above that line too. Run those two side by side. $20,000 above the comfort line in Sacramento. A little over $20,000 above the comfort line in Columbus. The raw salary number dropped by $35,000. The actual comfort margin barely moved at all. She was about to decline a real promotion over a salary gap that essentially disappeared the moment you compared it against what each city actually costs. And that's exactly the trap the loudest number in personal finance sets for everyone, not just for Maya. It's why even people who are doing fine can feel like they're failing. In 1978, psychologists Philip Brickman, Dan Coates, and Ronnie Janoff-Bullman ran one of the most cited studies in happiness research. They interviewed people who had just won the lottery, real life-changing money, and compared their happiness to a control group of non-winners in the same neighborhoods. The lottery winners were not meaningfully happier than the people who'd won nothing. This is the hedonic treadmill. You get a raise, you feel great for a while. Then your lifestyle quietly expands to match it, and you need the new number just to feel the way the old number used to make you feel. It's also exactly why the bank rate figure keeps climbing. 520 in 2024, 483 in 2023, likely higher again next year. Not because the actual cost of being rich keeps rising, but because the feeling of being rich is a target that moves every time someone gets close to it. That's the moving target that almost talked Maya out of a decision the real math supported. Charles Schwab's Modern Wealth Survey found something that explains the rest of it. 83% of Americans say they feel wealthy in the quality of their relationships. 83% feel wealthy in their happiness. 81% feel wealthy in the amount of free time they have. People already sense that money isn't the whole answer. They just keep measuring themselves against it anyway. The same way Maya nearly did with a job offer that had nothing to do with her actual cost of living. So where does that leave you the next time a number like this lands in your inbox? 77% of American adults say they're not completely financially secure, according to Bankrate's most recent survey. And income was never the same thing as wealth. A surgeon earning $500,000, carrying $400,000 in student loans and $1.2 million mortgage, can have a lower net worth than a retired teacher in West Virginia with a paid-off house and $800,000 saved for retirement. Income is a snapshot. Net worth is the full movie. Schwab's research shows Americans believe it takes $2.3 million in net worth to feel wealthy, but only $839,000 to feel financially comfortable. A $1.5 million gap between okay and rich, sitting entirely inside people's heads. And here's the part that should make you suspicious of every salary number you've ever compared across two cities. Only 20% of boomers believe they're wealthy, or on track to be, despite having had the most time of any living generation to build wealth. 43% of Gen Z, the generation earning the least right now, believes they're already wealthy, or on track. Whatever's driving that gap, it isn't the raw salary number. It's what that number actually buys, where you live, against what you actually need. Maya deleted the no. She didn't send a yes either, not yet. She opened a spreadsheet instead and ran her actual numbers, line by line, against both cities' real costs. Here's what she found once the math was finished, stripped down to what matters. The public says you need 520 to feel rich. The IRS says 731 to crack the top 1%. The cost of simply being comfortable ranges from $80,000 in West Virginia to $124,000 in Hawaii. None of those numbers were ever going to answer her question, because her question was never about a national average.
It was about her offer in her state against her real costs. $100,000 in Mississippi buys a 4-bedroom house, 2 cars, and weekends off. $100,000 in San Francisco buys a studio apartment, a roommate, and quiet anxiety about next month's rent. Same paycheck, completely different life. Same logic applies whether you're comparing states on a map or comparing 2 job offers in your own inbox. The salary you need to feel rich was never a fixed number. It's a relationship between your income, your costs, your expectations, and your willingness to actually run the math before a number on a screen makes the decision for you. 11 hours after she almost hit send on the wrong answer, Maya sent a different message. Not a no, a counteroffer with the real numbers attached. If this changed how you think about comparing salaries, even a little, drop a like. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need to run this math before they don't. And if you want the deeper breakdown of what actually builds wealth that compounds, not just income that disappears, subscribe. We break down the numbers nobody else wants to show you. Because here's the thing about chasing rich. The people who actually get there stopped chasing the number a long time ago. They just learned to ask whether the number in front of them actually solves their math. And they checked before they hit send. I'm Sam. I'll see you in the next one.